Hello and welcome to another Crossroads podcast, number 59. I'm the host, Jake Ryan, and if this is the first podcast you're listening into, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. If you like it, make sure and do the whole like, subscribe, comment down below. I haven't done a solo podcast in quite a while. I usually do it with my homie James LaFountain, or I'll get some guests on the show, other artists or business owners. But in this one, I have a special treat for y'all. I've been meaning to do a little bit of storytelling and tell you all about some of the experiences I've had in my life. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, a little history on myself. I'm an artist, musician, business owner out in Montana. Father, husband. And in my youth, I was, I'd say I was a pretty good kid at first. I didn't like getting in trouble. I liked to play sports. And then I got, into basketball, baseball, really into skateboarding. And then I got really into music and rock and roll and hip hop and kind of fell into the counterculture and rebellion. I come from a household of divorced parents. I went to Catholic and Christian church. And then later in life, just kind of rebelled. And I wanted to just be sober, never do any drugs or alcohol. And like the family that had become before me, there was a lot of alcoholism and addiction that runs in my family. And I guess you could say I fell victim to the same genetic makeup and apparently chose to go down that same pathway. Now, I've been sober over a year now, which is super awesome. The best choice I've ever made in my life. One of the best choices, other than getting married to my wife and having beautiful children. Some of the other best decisions I've ever made in my life. But some of the other decisions I've made in my life was to try psychedelic drugs, mind expanders, and on this one I'm going to focus on LSD, or the street name is like acid, mainly acid. Now, I want to make sure and tell people I'm not promoting the use of this substance. I'm not recommending it, although I do hear about different studies and clinical research and all sorts of things nowadays. In 2022, it's a much different world. But, back in the 60s and 70s, that's the world I was attracted to, listening to music like The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, and all that psychedelic 60s jazz. Psychedelic 60s acid rock, Pink Floyd, you know what I'm saying? And I was always into that music, but I still never wanted to do the substance. But later I started smoking weed to kind of pull myself out of depression. That also runs in my family. And I'd say, it kind of helped with my depression, but I would still just kind of self-isolate, smoke weed, and it didn't, it'd make me happy for a while, get the munchies, but it still didn't cure my depression at all. What I've had to do to help with the depression is, go to therapy, and, I've tried some other, mood stabilizers for bipolar. Now, I also tried LSD. I would read books. This one book, LSD, The Problem-Solving Breakthrough Drug. And in that book, I read things like, helping with your mental disorders, anxiety, depression, OCD. Some of the other main things. I can't remember them right now. But I was also interested in things like astral projection, out-of-body experiences, past lives. I was really into the ideas of reincarnation. I struggled a lot with not feeling like I belong in this life. I actually struggled a lot with suicidal thoughts because of depression, like I didn't want to be alive. Or I had felt like I had already been alive in past lives. People would say, oh, he's an old soul. And I would wrestle with a lot of these things, feeling like I, you know, was reincarnate. And you would think like, oh, I'm not reincarnated unless it's to get my karma right, or unless it was to, you know, do something right because I did it wrong in the past. So I was always doing this soul searching, and I thought maybe I could, fix myself with this substance. And it wasn't really just to get high and like go to a party and just try a drug, because I was always just a shy person, never really into the party scene. Later, when I started drinking alcohol, I would, go to the party, think I was like Mr. Cool. It really like would inflate my ego and be like liquid courage to me, and it was a really bad thing for me. It really fed into my bipolar manic depression really bad. My mood swings would go crazy. I'd be happy, sad, angry, just explosive, and flip a switch like that. Now, the LSD, my first experience with it, I was in Seattle, Washington in college. And I have to say, one of the main reasons I even wanted to get there was to do acid. And that's kind of sad. I was going to school for music production, which I also wanted to do, just to produce music and get my music out there and learn how to engineer sound and recording studios. Not only produce music and get mine out there, but help others record and get their music out there, which I still do. But nowadays, I just stick to my own thing, raise my family. I'm not even so focused on getting out and playing music live, because that also creates a lot of anxiety and stress. Although I do enjoy it, it's not as great as it sounds. Even the fame stuff is not as great as it sounds. It creates a lot of anxiety. But before, I wanted to have that validation, and I would search for that validation or that euphoria in other people. And this again was with the LSD. Maybe I was searching for it in that, and I had to find it within myself. And actually, the psychedelics, I think, may have helped me to look more inward instead of just for this outward validation and love from everything else, and just to look more inward. And I guess you could say the marijuana helped me like do more meditation and stuff as well. It really helped with the meditation. But the first time I did LSD, I got it from this girl named Lucy, which is kind of funny. Lucy and this guy with diamonds. And it was on some sugar cubes, and it was just my day off. I worked at Starbucks in Seattle. It was like a Sunday. Didn't have to go to school, didn't have to go to work. And I was just like, hey, I'm going to do this LSD today. And I had 2 sugar cubes. And I was told to like do one and then later do the second one. In retrospect, I probably didn't really need the second one, because like 1 is pretty powerful. So, plus, you don't ever really know how many drops they put on like 1 piece of blotter or 1 sugar cube or anything. They could have put a lot. They could have made a concoction that was like a really strong batch. Could have been a really weak batch. Could have been diluted. Anyways, this was my first experience, so it obviously was going to be powerful no matter what. So, I wake up in the morning, and it's pretty much like the first thing I did. I maybe had like a little breakfast or coffee, and just ate the sugar cube. Got to my day. A friend stopped by, said what's up. He was heading to work. And when we were talking, I remember listening to Jimi Hendrix on the radio. And this is when I started to get this feeling like I could kind of like see the music coming out of the radio, like an energy wave. Started traveling around my room. And by the way, leave a comment down below if you want me to turn this into a cartoon visual for y'all. And I will do that. I will make the time and put the energy into that. But the more people I get that let me know they want to see the cartoon visual, the more inspiration I'll have to do it. And I'll thank you in the credits. Anyways, listen to Jimi Hendrix. The LSD is starting to hit me. And I can see the energy waves, sound waves coming out of the stereo and making their way around my room. And I was like, wow. And that's one of the biggest things I wanted to experience with the LSD, was to kind of break through reality and see into the molecules of reality. I wanted to see what makes up reality. I had this fascination with, like, what is reality? I thought of it like a video game or like a simulation. Or I would read all these books like The Secret or The Celestine Prophecy about energy and how everything, is made up of energy. And I'd learned that in science class. And I wanted to be able to see the particles. I wanted to see the molecules. And I believe that the LSD, opened my mind to that point. It could kind of slow down time and I could perceive it that way. So I could see these sound waves coming out as like colors, like a purple color. And I decide, you know what, I'm going to sit down and meditate, write a poem, write a song or something I love to do. And so I sat down on my little carpet. It's kind of like my little magic carpet. I'd sit, meditate, and it'd take me to like a different plane of consciousness. So I sit down, I opened my book to write, and I took like one hit of marijuana. And I had this thought in my mind that was like, okay, wow, I think I'm actually at the point now I could leave my body if I wanted to. Now, this is something I had been working my way up towards. Like, I would always sit and meditate and kind of want to go out of body. And I would kind of get like halfway out of my body, And it wasn't just to like escape reality. But to me, it was also about going into the astral realm and kind of seeing what's out there, communicating with the higher dimensional beings. Like, I was really trying to get in touch with like my angels or spirit guides or closer to God in a sense. So I'm meditating. I think to myself, I could leave my body right now easily. And I did. I just was like, oh, it's easy. So I start traveling out of body, and it was crazy because I could like see myself with like, I guess, your spirit eyes, your soul eyes, your mind's eye, I don't know. And I can see my body down below me. And then I start to rise, and I'm coming to like the ceiling of my apartment. And then I went through that, and then I was like above the building. I could see like the roof of the building. I keep traveling higher. I could see the city. And then I'm in the clouds in the sky. And then I was just kind of in the beyond, like the astral, I guess, because it was just like stars and blackness. And, probably at that point, like a kaleidoscope of colors. Like, it was just like breaking through. It was so hard to explain. It was like your brain. I don't even know if it was your brain. It was because I'm out of my brain. Totally out of my body. In the astral, in the universe, on a magic carpet ride, it felt like. And so I'm traveling through the universe, and basically I came to this point that all I could see was this golden infinite sign. So infinity was just going back and forth, back and forth. And what I seen on that was one side of the infinite sign was life, and the other side was death. And it just continued in an endless cycle that never ended. Like, you live, you die, you live, you die, you live, you die. Consciousness never ends. It's like energy cannot be created or destroyed. And then I came back to my body, and it was it was the most like profound experience at that point, to that point in my life. And then so a few of the other things I remember about that experience was, then I remember looking at my hands and being like, whoa, I'm in my body. Wow, like I have hands and I'm a soul in a body. This is the temple that my divine spirit, spark of consciousness, this is like the holy temple. This is the house of the Holy Spirit, or something, like, because you feel like you're like a little fractal of God, created in God's image, just like God, or the energy, all the cosmic source of energy, that one point that everything comes from in the Big Bang or whatever, that you and I, or everything, is just like an explosion and a little piece of that. But you're still connected to it, like in your mind and your soul and your body, mind, and soul. So I'm looking at my body like, wow, this is the holy temple. This is my vehicle to the soul. This is like the chariot of the gods or something. And that God is within me, and the Holy Spirit is within me, connected with it again. And I was like, well, I gotta go. I was writing this book, and it was crazy because it was like all of a sudden I just started writing, like I couldn't even control myself. It was just happening, And I only really remember, and what was crazy about it was like the way it looked. It looked like checkers, like a checkerboard thing. And as soon as I started writing, it was like a wonderland. Like my imagination started working. Once my imagination started working and I was being creative, and that I had hit that flow state, it like opened a door to this world where it was like I could hear music in my mind and I could see again through reality, and there was something flowing through me. There was a consciousness, a whatever that creative inspiration is, where I would say it's a connection to, God, or if you're channeling that higher vibrational frequency, I mean, you could be channeling the lower vibrational frequencies. Either way, is a powerful energy. And I just remember thinking and writing, like, this is the culmination of my being, because I felt like all those years of my life up to that point had just kind of like hit me all of a sudden. I was about 18, I think, yeah. And it's just like, it all hit me, and I was like, everything flashed through my mind in like an instant, like my whole life did. My birth, my whole life, like birth, life, death, childhood, teenage years, school, church. The doors of perception were cleansed. I was also reading that book, The Doors of Perception, by Aldous Huxley, that Jim Morrison was inspired by. The doors. The doors of perception are cleansed. Things will be seen as they truly are, infinite. And I was experiencing that. Like the doors of perception in your mind. Jimi Hendrix would say it's like doing LSD was like wiping the cobwebs from your brain. And it's really hard to explain. You have to experience it. And it's like all these things through your mind that can just kind of all be like swiped. And it's not like your mind is erased or your memory is erased. In fact, it can bring up a lot of those memories you buried away. And so those started going through my head too. All the like childhood traumas that I buried away and didn't face. Those little inner demons started popping up, and it was scary. I had to face them, and now I talk to a therapist about it. But which really helps, by the way. I definitely recommend it. I was really turned off by therapy and like resistant and like, no way, I'm too cool for that. I'm better than that. I'm too manly. But it helps. And so the LSD kind of awakened these demons within me, these inner demons that I had buried away, and I didn't want to deal with all these things I feared, or that made me angry, or made me feel fragile, made me feel weak, made me feel fear. So you can't let the fear get to you, otherwise you start having a bad trip. That's everything I had learned and been told. So I'm going through this kind of hell in my brain of like dealing with these traumas as a kid. Like, I would go to do something simple. Like, for some reason, I decided I'm going to go do my laundry. I don't know why you would think to do that, but it was, my day off work, and I'm like, I got to go do my laundry. Which brought me back to, like, a traumatic childhood experience where I was, like, hiding from somebody in the laundry room. Somebody was intimidating me and scaring me, And it brought me all the way back to that point when I'm like 5 years old. So in my mind, it brought me back to being a 5-year-old, although I was 18. It made me feel that fear of that 5-year-old kid and having to deal with it and realize how those anxieties still live with me to go do something simple. I was go do my laundry. And to have to overcome that and be an adult and like be brave and have the courage to just be like, look, I'm responsible for myself. Okay, I can do this. So go up and do my laundry. And the funny thing about that too is when I was walking back to my dorm room, like the tile was like black with little white speckles, and all of a sudden it again just hit me where it was like I felt like I was in the universe again, like walking through the universe. And the walls to me started looking kind of like, is my imagination or something? Because it was like kind of checkered or polka dot walls. It was like I could see the grid of the Matrix just for a flash, just like a quick second, and then I'd be like back in reality. And so I go back to my room and I'm like, dude, this is heavy. I like curled up in bed in like the fetal position. It was like, I have to like just push through this. This is kind of scary. It was miraculous and really enjoyable, but also kind of haunting to bring back all these memories. And again, so I'm like laying there in the fetal position. I start having again all these flashes of like my birth, not only my birth, but being back as a fetus, like being in the womb. It took me that far back. And then I'm having again some kind of out of body, like I could look at myself down in my bed, just kind of like feeling sorry for myself, being like, why is he so afraid? What's he going through? And I'm looking at myself thinking that, like, this is insane. I don't know if everybody else has these kind of trips, but this is my first trip. I just want to share it. So I come back to it and I'm like, wow, okay. I made it through that. I'm going to go take a shower and just feel better. I need to feel better. This is intense. So by this point, I think I've already had the second dose. And this is when I was like, I don't know if I needed that second dose because this is, woo. And so I go take a shower. And it was crazy. Like, I took a whiz, and in front of my toilet there was a picture of a poster of Jimi Hendrix, "Axis Bold as Love." Now, when I looked at that, it's kind of like the Hindu or like Indian, like multiple arms and like heads of like Ganesh and all these other kind of deities. And basically Jimi Hendrix is kind of like, looks like a god. Here, I think I even have it over here. So yeah, for those of you who are viewing, some of you might just be listening, but Axis Bold as Love. So you can see it. It's got this real like Krishna vibe, it was moving. Like, all the arms were moving. It looked like Jimi Hendrix was speaking to me. Like, I felt one with Jimi Hendrix for sure. And for so much of my life, like, I always felt kind of connected with Jimi Hendrix, especially as a guitar player and musician. That was the guitar player I wanted to connect with, like, spiritually. It's like, yo, Hendrix vibe moved through me. My son's name is Hendrix as well. And I still feel that vibe all the time when I'm playing music. Like, channel the energy of Jimi Hendrix. There's just something just beyond and something like heavenly about Jimi Hendrix. Although he went through his own hell, for some reason he was a hero to me. You could say, I don't like to say that I idolized Jimi Hendrix, because, I don't want to create false idols. But I guess you could say I did that. Jimi Hendrix was just like this demigod to me or something. A musician that inspired me. Let's leave it at that. Just another human that he had that connection, I believe, to God and the source, and he could kind of relay that to other people, and it transmuted through his music and his guitar playing and his ability to write songs. And I think that was his belief in his message, that he felt his purpose and destiny was, and that's why I would relate to it, because that's what I'd feel like. My purpose and my destiny is to, spread these good vibrations through the music, or just do my own therapy through that. So I'm taking a whiz back to my story, and the poster is moving, and it's like speaking to me. I'm like, I gotta get in the shower. So I get in the shower, and when I seen all the water droplets come out of me, it was like slow motion, like each little droplet of water to me looked like a whole universe of its own. Like, in a little bubble of water that'd be sitting on the side of the shower wall, it was a whole universe to me, like the multiverse. And I was like, there's just thousands, millions, an infinite number of universes out there. Like, every thought you might think is a universe. Every little bubble is a whole nother universe. That's how mind expanding it can be. So then I get out of the shower, and it felt like I totally baptized myself, like I cleansed myself. So I go, the window's all steamy, the mirror is all steamy, and I wipe off the mirror, and I literally thought I was Jim Morrison when I wiped that mirror off. And I would actually battle that a lot, of being feeling like the reincarnation of Jim Morrison, or feeling again, that spirit, like I was connected to that spirit. Or I don't know if I would maybe allowed the spirit to work with me or through me or something. I don't know. The energies, channeling the energies. Again, just another musician that inspired me for some reason. And so I wiped the steam off the mirror, and I couldn't tell which side of the mirror I was on for a second. I was like, whoa, am I inside of the mirror? Or is that another realm over there? Am I on the other side of the mirror? Am I in the real world? Am I in the mirror world? I was confused. I was like, is that person on the other side of the mirror in the real world, and I'm in the fake world? It was a trip, man. So I stopped tripping on that, and I just, get dressed, go get my laundry, and basically just, was coming down at that point, called some friends, and was like, wow, bro, I just had the most mind-blowing experience. And I, left it at that. I got on with my night, and I would say that the next day, I went to school, probably went to work, probably had this kind of afterbuzz, afterglow, because I felt like a changed man. I felt like my whole life would never be the same after that. I felt like going tomorrow, I was like, people are gonna know that I did acid last night because I'm that changed. Like, nobody's gonna know. But I felt like I had, like, evolved. That I had, like, upgraded to this whole nother level. And that everybody would see me, like, glowing or something. Like this person just went through, like, a whole different, like, puberty thing where it's, like, enlightenment or something. It was like I was not totally enlightened, but it was like I had this whole other awareness again, like I was reawakened. And I was on this search for that, like a search for some sort of enlightenment or spiritual awakening. And I would say that it was like a spiritual awakening. Again, it just like, it like forces you to experience all these things. You might try to experience it through like meditation or going to church or going out in nature, reading books, watching movies. But for some reason, this one little substance that you can't even see, that's how magical it is. It could be a drop on a sugar cube, on a piece of paper, on a little blotter, or just straight out of the little dropper of the vial. One drop has so much, for some reason, like ability to just, it's like the key to the door in your mind that you can unlock. All the doors in your mind are the one main door, and you start walking through them. It literally feels like you could go in your mind if you start meditating, and you could walk through all these doors in your mind. You could tap into your reptile mind and be going through a labyrinth, a maze through your mind. And it is amazing what you'll find in your mind. It's scary. And it's even scary what you find beyond your mind, out of your mind. Now, I'm going to leave these for some other stories, going on about a half hour here, because I have plenty of psychedelic stories. Because after this one experience, I guess you could say I was hooked. Not like physically addicted, but mentally addicted and spiritually addicted. I was like, I need more. I need to experience this more. So I went on a long time in my life of a lot more psychedelic experiences and journeys. I'm going to tell you about these all separately in different videos. Up next, I'm going to tell you about my second LSD trip, my bad trip. Now, this was not good. I'm going to save that for the next podcast. This wasn't my out-of-body experience. Well, I guess you could say it was an out-of-body experience because it was a near-death experience. Now, this first trip I had, the good trip, was like an ego death experience where like my ego melted away and I became one with the whole universe again and totally feel that unity of like, you just dissolve into everything. And you become the molecules that make up everything in existence, and you just feel like connected with everything, every person, because you'll think like, oh, we're connected by the energy, all the molecules that make up this shirt, this body, this hair follicles, this glasses, everything that's made of little molecules you can't even see. That we are that energy and the vibes. You're feeling the vibes from somebody, you're on the same wavelength, or you're, not vibing. That's it, man. The energy, the vibes. And also beyond that, there's something about the soul and the spirit, which is like, it's like not energy. It's like spirit matter. I don't know if it's a spirit molecule. Something. It's like not energy though. It's like light or darkness. I don't know if light and darkness is energy. Like molecules. I don't know what it is exactly. But my first experience, I seen the light side. My second experience, I seen the dark side. And I'll tell you what's interesting about it too, is that the first time I dropped acid, I did it during the daytime, in the light. The second time, I did it at night, in the darkness. I don't know if that has any correlation of like experiencing the light side, experiencing the dark side, but possibly. So I'm going to quit rambling. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't trip you out too much. Maybe I did want to trip you out. Maybe I wanted to blow your mind. For those of you out there that have never had a psychedelic experience, you don't even need to. The mind is psychedelic. You don't need these substances. Like, if you want, you can just meditate or focus on your imagination. Do the things you love. Write, play music, go do sports, go run. Whatever it is you enjoy, sew things. You can hit that flow state, and that's it right there. Once you hit that flow state, that's it. You don't need the substance. You don't. It's a cheat code, basically, to hack the matrix, sort of life. And you don't need it. But I do believe in some of the benefits therapeutically for the mind if you don't do too much. If you just do a little bit, as far as. And I'm no doctor or nothing like that either. So, again, I don't want YouTube to block me because they have done that in the past. I'm not recommending anything. I'm just sharing my story and my experiences. But I do believe that some of these psychedelic substances that come from the plant kingdom especially, they do synthesize them, of course, but I do believe that they can be used to help the mind heal the soul too. So it could help the body, because the body, mind, and soul all work together. If you're trying to work through those OCD, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, addiction, depression, anxiety, I would say it helped me. It helped me get off of alcohol, cigarettes. I'll save that all for another story. But these are just some of the benefits I had. It's helped me deal with the PTSD and like examine these traumas and then speak to a therapist about it, or do my own inner work, even the shadow work about my dark aspects of my personality, because when you have to face those dark aspects of yourself, it's quite scary. Then when you acknowledge it and realize, okay, that is a part of me that exists, I don't want to share it with the world. I don't want to feed that monster inside of me. Like I was feeding the monster with my alcoholism, or self-isolation, or anger, and hatred, frustrations. It could start as something small, like, oh, the dishes aren't done. And it leads to just, my hatred for myself and not want to be alive. It's crazy. And so to come out of that and like appreciate life, that's one thing it made me realize, was how beautiful life is, how amazing life is. And sometimes we take that for granted and we're like, I just don't want to exist because my life sucks, because my mom or dad didn't love me or give me attention, or my girlfriend or boyfriend just broke up with me, or I just got fired from my job, or I hate my job, or I hate going to school, or I hate these things I have to do. I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in God. I don't know what anything is, or maybe, I don't know, you might be lost. And sometime, I guess maybe that's why I turned to the substances too, is I thought that it would help me become a better person, or find myself, or find the answers. And all I can say Is this not the answer? But it definitely opened my mind to the whole universe and to examine myself and self-reflect and look at myself and be like, who are you? What are you doing with your life? Like, why are you the way you are? Who are you? Why do you do the things you do? Why do you eat the things you eat? Why do you choose to smoke cigarettes when you know that they're poisoning your body and they could give you cancer, and you're just addicted, although you might not even want to? I didn't even want to smoke cigarettes half the time I was smoking. Nasty habit. Alcohol, when you be like, you're addicted to the alcohol. I never wanted to be that person. I fell into that role, the mold that even like the people that came before me were just like this, and I was just following suit. Is in my genetic makeup or something? And when you're on these psychedelic substances, you think that deeply about, like, you think not only about like, oh, look at my hands, wow, amazing, my hands. You look at like the lines in your hands. At least I did. And you'd be like, you look like deep into your hands. You can see like the veins and through to the muscles and the skeleton, and you think about your cells, your blood cells. Think about uh, the DNA and the genetic coding that makes up who you are, and how mind blowing that is that we have DNA. And that's what always interested me even about the LSD, and I'll get into this in a different podcast, was how it felt like my DNA was like upgrading. And I've heard theories about how they'd say like certain DNA just lies dormant, or we only use 10% of our brain. And I believe these mind expanders, like, to take it from 10% to 20. Sometimes I felt like it took it to like 100% and beyond, where like it totally blew my cord. It didn't just open the doors of perception, like it knocked them down. It blew the door off the hinges. So, that being said, it is so powerful, so strong. You have to be careful. That's why I was like, dude, I lock the doors. Do not leave the house. If it's your first time, have a babysitter. They recommend that. I had no babysitter. I guess I was just a rider on the storm. Anyways, check out this radical shirt. My wife did the geode tie-dye. We're going to make them available on our website, soulfireunlimited.com/merch, I think is what the link is. I'll put the links down below. I'm going to be writing some books about these psychedelic experiences. Y'all know I got music out there. And I'm getting more shirts, all kinds of new merchandising. But look, it's not about the merchandising. And sure, I need to make money. I got a family to raise. I got businesses to build. But really, it's about something beyond the money. It's about a consciousness. It's about our souls. It's about something in the spirit. And if you can transform and become a better person, I'm trying to become a better person. That's why I've been making the choices of like, look, I gotta quit with the things that are holding me back. Start doing some things that'll move me forward. And not only me forward, but move others forward, my wife, my kids. So buy a house, upgrade our vehicles, be secure, savings. Stop just being like, yo, I would spend all my money on drugs and alcohol because I thought that like it was me masking the trauma that I didn't want to face from like my childhood. And again, that's why I'd go on these psychedelic drug loops where I was like, it became escapism. I'll get into that in further podcasts. But it later became that escaping reality, not just to like astral project and like go and beyond, but that's where it can become a problem. Not just a problem solving substance, but an actual problem. So, be very careful with any substances you put in your body, because here's the other thing too. It's not like I knew what that was. It's not like I knew if that was actually LSD. It could have been DOB. Could have been 2CB. Or some other test chemical. I don't know. Who was cooking up that batch? I don't know. People would always say, oh, this is some of the old Grateful Dead family batch. I don't know that. This is some Orange Sunshine. Or this is some Strychnine. I don't know. You don't know. Even if you got some test kit. And I would meet people too that they're like, I'm the chemist, I made this. But it's like, dude, even when you're a chemist, things go wrong. Your lights might not be right. It might not be the clean utensils. You might have a little too much of this, too much of that. You might, shortcut it here or there. And even that is kind of sketchy, like... And that's why I was always attracted to, more of the plant kingdom. People say, oh, it's like God made this. It's natural. It's from the earth. But hey, man, God also made poison ivy. And there's plants out there that will kill you. So it's not like all these plants out there are good for you. So be careful with what you're doing out there. I don't want to promote drug use. I just want to share my stories and my experiences, because here's the other thing. Why I'd have to change my ways. I never wanted my children to experience the things that I've experienced. I never wanted them to be like me. To be this runaway, rebel, renegade that's like, fuck the world, and angry at God, angry at society, because... whatever, my mom and dad got a divorce, or my childhood sucked, and there was these things out of my power that happened to me or that happened to other people. And honestly, it would develop these kind of savior complexes where I felt like God's special person that was here to save humanity and awaken souls or whatever. And I talked to my therapist about this stuff. And it wasn't about like awakening other people's souls and healing these other people. That was me externalizing, me wanting to fix myself. Really. Because it's like, look, man, I can't save the world. I can save myself. I can take care of my children. If I can inspire other people by telling them my story and, really my redemption story about transformation, and be like, look, man, I used to be fucked up. I used to make horrible choices. I wanted to drown myself in alcohol because it was one of those things where it's like, I wanted to die. I didn't want to live. But I did want to live. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. I was just stuck. I was in a bad thought loop. So for any of you out there going through these hard times, please feel free to message me before you go choose drugs. Don't choose drugs, folks, because they can fuck you up. And people might say that, LSD and this and that can dissolve your ego and you have no ego. But no, you could also boost your ego and be so inflated that you think you are God. You think you're the most important person in the whole world. And the other dangerous thing about these mind psychedelic drugs, they can be used to control people. You could brainwash people with them. You could influence people so much. You could put them under this psychedelic drug and they won't even know it. You could put a drop in the punch at the party, in the water bottle. Nobody would ever know it. You can microdose people, and they start having this experience where it's like somebody gets on stage and they're talking about this is life and this is how it really is. And then they all of a sudden become this figure, this like God figure, this prophet figure, this Messiah to you maybe, that you feel like they're awakening you and that they're channeling this energy. And that's how cults get started. So, you know, even these rock bands, it's kind of dangerous territory. And, you know, I love the Grateful Dead. I got the Grateful Dead tattoo on my neck. And they have a huge following. They make some amazing music. But there's something about it. All that stuff. There's an energy to it. There's... like, the followers weren't just following because the music. They were following the drugs. And it wasn't just the drugs they're following. It's the experience. Once it breaks you through to the spirit, to the energy. The drug was just kind of the key to where you could like see it and experience it. And once it's in you, it's all over. Because so within, so without. As above, so below. As within, so without. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, I've been rambling. I'm coming up on 1 hour. I don't know, maybe I will go an hour. I didn't even want to chat this long. Once I get to rambling, I get to rambling. Because I'm a rambling man. I'm a rambling, gambling man. But again, please like, comment, or dislike if you want. Be like, dude, this guy is insane. He's crazy. Do not listen to him. He is a maniac. And yes, I am. I know that. In my next story, I will tell you when I hit my manias. And this is exactly why, you know, I'll tell people like, look, man, don't do drugs. What it led me to wasn't just mental breakthroughs. They were also mental breakdowns. And not just a mental breakdown in my own like room and solitude. No, public meltdowns. You know, things that could ruin your life. You know, you out. I'm not even going to get into descriptions, but you could make some choices that alter the whole rest of your life. You could lose your job, your schooling, your love of your life. You could end up in jail. You could end up dead because you ate some bad acid that you thought was acid, but it was just like some test that somebody made up in their, you know, closet, their bathroom. It could just be some dirty, you know. And also, because people might just be like, yo, I'm just trying to sell this, like, to make money. They don't care about, like, enlightening you or expanding your mind. They're just, like, trying to make money so that they can get more drugs. You know, that's the world. It's not like they, maybe in the beginning, you'd see this documentary about the sunshine makers and these guys that would make these substances, and, you know, they wanted to expand minds and, like, get it out there for free and just start dosing people and giving them this experience where it's like, okay, now you see God. And again, that is so dangerous because it's like, you don't need that. You know, you just need a pure mind. Like, if you can get yourself right in your own mind, the mind is so powerful in itself. Again, the drug could just be a key to unlocking a door. It might be a good door, it might be a bad door. Think about the psychedelic substance. It's all about the mind, but it really affects your body too. Like, there could be some speed in that, you know, methamphetamines. And, you know, that's why the LSD trip lasts like 12 hours. It's not something you just, like, play around with. It's not like smoking weed where you are like, yeah, sure, I could take like 3 massive bong hits. And you'd be like, oh, sure, give me a tab of acid. Man, I'll eat like 3 tabs of acid. Dude, you will be like staring at the wall. You'll be staring at the TV with nothing on it and think you're speaking to, you know, interdimensional beings. That's how like powerful this stuff is. You could be so far gone you might not ever come back. You might and that's the scariest thing about it too, is you could lose your mind and never come back. Has happened to many people. Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd totally lost his mind. He never come back. I've heard about like horror stories where people are like, this guy thought he was a juice box. But yeah, man, it is that mind blowing that coming back to reality from even an astral projection or just a drug trip, an experience like that, reality is unreal. Like, you start to question reality. You might think you're in a dream. And that's when you start to think too about how powerful the mind is and how you can actually create a life that you love or you hate by, focusing on it. And so when I would be tripping too, you can really focus. Like, if you focus and be like, I want to trip harder, you will, because you focus on it. You might be like, yo, I just did something, I don't feel nothing. It's like, whatever. Because that's what your mind is telling you. Sometimes I would wonder if there was even any acid on that blotter or on that sugar cube. Because the mind is so strong, you could trip yourself out. And like, once you start tripping yourself out, those chemicals in your brain start releasing. And that's where the psychedelics are, right there. Like the DMT in your brain. Or, here's the other thing that really freaks me out. Before I would have a psychedelic experience, like before I would eat some LSD, my mind, I felt like I would start tripping beforehand. I called it pre-tripping. And I don't know if it was something about the brain, but it was like I knew it was coming. Even if I, like I'd be going to a music festival or go to play a show. I didn't have this substance on me, but I knew it was coming. My brain would already start like activating and like readying itself for that experience. Maybe I was just manifesting it. The mind is that powerful that you can manifest whatever you want. If you're that much of an addict or a fiend, you will get what you're searching for, because the mind is that strong. And that's what I've learned, even from these substances, even in that one experience. It's all in the mind. Mind over matter. Your mind could influence, like, literally the matter, the molecules. When I came back to my body from this out-of-body experience, I could see the molecules in the air. I could see the vibrations coming off of my bed frame, my bedside table. It was rainbow hues. You could see the rainbow hues around everything. You could see the little vibrations off of every little piece of furniture that you could see through reality. And that's what I got addicted to as well, was it felt like a superpower. Like, I wanted to be psychic when I was younger. I was like, I want to be able to read people's minds. I want to be able to, like, move objects with my mind. I want to be able to see beyond. I want to be able to, like, travel time. And that's what you can kind of do in your mind. Like, you can travel back to when you're, like I said, you would flash back. Those flashbacks are real. And I wouldn't just flash back in my own life. The scary thing about it is I would flash back through lifetimes. Like, my soul. or be reincarnated, I would flash back to those lives I've already lived. Like my soul has already lived. That's how powerful this substance is. And if you've done the soul work like me and you're trying to have that type of experience, that probably helps it too. I don't know if people that are just like, yo, I went to a high school party and I dropped some acid and all of a sudden I was flashing back through all my past lives. I don't know if that happens. Let me know in the comments down below some of your experiences. And if you want me to turn this into a cartoon, because I will. Check out Soulfire Tunes. I make a lot of like hip hop music videos for people. But anyways, I'm gonna get going. Make sure and let me know you're out there, because I'm trying to connect with more people. On the XROADZ podcast, I'm trying to get more subscribers. And it ain't just about the numbers. I just want to feel like there's actual people out there listening, that I'm like connecting with your soul. Because what? Numbers on a screen? That's not tapping into a soul. That's just like a digit on a screen. I want to know the subscribers like by name. So like comment who you are down below. Like put your name in there and be like, yo, what's up? My name is Gordy. Fucking Jake Ryan, you're crazy. But I love you. Or I hate you. Whatever. Even when I get hate nowadays, I love it. I would rather get hatred and dislike than no interaction at all. Because then it's like I'm putting that energy and my art out there to the world, and it's just going to the void, going to no man's land. I don't want that. I want it to connect with somebody and bounce back, so I know that they're out there. And that's the thing about psychedelic experience too, is like you feel that oneness, but you could feel so alone. It's like the lonely God theory, because you could feel like you were God and you're so lonely as God, like God's just out there, just alone in the universe. Just like how lonely would it be to be God? Like you're God. It's just like, what are you gonna do? Create the whole universe? Okay. Maybe create another universe, create all the beings in the whole universe. You're the all-powerful God. Like, why do you wanna... It would get kind of boring being God. What are you gonna do? So then you become a human and you're like, yo, I want to make mistakes. I want to search for God. I want to learn who I am. It's like they say, life is a reflection of art, or art is a reflection of life. And it's this constant search of finding yourself. But you never really... It's like a constant search. And that's the beauty of it. It's like the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. It's like that never-ending cycle, like the infinity. It's that chase that lasts forever. And that's why, you could find one love. You don't need to be free love and like banging everybody in the world and feeling good about yourself. Like, I'm the king. I can like bang anybody. And they all love me. Nah, dude. I got one love. My wife, my kids. That's my belief. Y'all can live whatever kind of life you want. I used to dream of that stuff. Like, be rock star, thousands of groupies. Yeah. Slaying the dragon. Chasing the dragon. It's never good enough. There's never enough. And then you feel like not satisfied within. You constantly have to chase it, chase it, chase it. It's like the drugs. It's like the high. Just find that one love. Be satisfied. Make a family. Create your life. Now when I'm speaking these ideals out, I don't know. I'm just rambling. But it's like if I could speak to my younger self, if I could tell my son or my daughter this stuff, that's all I'm trying to do, is give people some advice out there and say, hey, you know what? These are the things that I think are important in life. And you don't need to get caught up in all the BS and the status. I used to want to be that. I used to want to be famous. I used to want to be liked and loved by everybody, and to boost my ego and think that, buying a new truck and buying a big mansion, that I was entitled to that or something because I'm alive and I'm God's special, creation. And that's not what it's about. Like, that's not what life's about. Life's about, like, being humble and, like, just connecting with the earth and, like, your family. So I'll still be working on that with my family. I'd be like, after my year of sobriety, I'm still making amends with people. Being like, you know what? I'm sorry for all the mistakes I made. I'm sorry that I chose drugs and alcohol and I ran away from you. And I'm sorry I was angry. And so, I'm sorry for rambling for so long. If you want to hear some more of my psychedelic stories, let me know in the comments below. And I'm going to get the heck out of here, because it's getting late, and I need to get to bed. No matter how woke you are, you need to get some sleep, y'all. Alright, thank you for tuning in. Crossroads Podcast, number 59. I'm out. Space Cowboy. Gonna get some shut-eye.